Hollywood icon Doris Day has passed away. She died at the age of 97.
Doris Day was beautiful to behold, and she could act really well. But there was more to this all-American girl than met the eye. However, the real life of this legend was not only the parts she played and the songs people loved. She had her mysteries and changes in her life. Who would have thought that her life was actually quite unpredictable? Doris Day, the movie star, the glamour of Hollywood, the rise to fame, the success, and the personal life challenges that Doris Day went through are as dramatic as any of her movies. Well, here we are. Let's meet the unknown facts about this legendary star and try to know what made Doris Day legendary. From aspiring star to Hollywood icon, Doris Day's stardom story could only be described as a meteoric rise in Hollywood. Having achieved great success in singing, with such songs as Sentimental Journey and My Dreams Are Getting Better All the Time, Doris gained the attention of filmmakers relatively early in her career. Due to her beauty, her jovial personality, and her rather girl-next-door appeal, she was an ideal candidate for a movie star. Someone at Warner Brothers took note of her, and by 1948, she was making her film debut in Romance on the High Seas. At first a very small part, Doris's talent eventually propelled her to starring roles, making for a very organic shift from singer to actress. In early films, Doris played various genres, including romantic comedy, musicals, and much more. The major stepping stone in her career was Calamity Jane, 1953, in which she portrayed a spirited and cheerful character, which made her the darling of America. Her appeal was the mix of singing and personality, and she turned into the embodiment of the perfect American woman, wholesome, cheerful, and charming. Movies such as Pillow Talk, 1959, alongside Rock Hudson made her a favorite star and one of the biggest box office draws at the time. But popularity had its own problems. The pressure of sustaining her squeaky clean image was immense, and Hollywood had a very clear stereotype and typecast her, and thus restricted her range of roles. In private life, Doris had many problems: the failed first marriage, the constant struggle to bring up a son Terry, as well as a rather intensive work experience. Due to high demands of the media and fast pace of the industry, she went through some time of depression, self-doubt, and exhaustion. However, it was not easy for Doris Day to go through all of them, and that is why she was always professional in any of the roles she was portraying, with a lot of effort and talent. Her perseverance and capacity to be successful in circumstance only added to her fame of being the bright star of Hollywood. Formative years and beginnings. Doris Day was born as Doris Mary Ann Kappelhoff to William Joseph Kappelhoff and Anna Emma Fanush Kappelhoff on 3rd of April 1922 in Cincinnati of Ohio. Her parents were Germans, and she was born and brought up in a small house in the west end of the city. Her mother was a housewife, while her father, a music instructor and a choir master, was her primary role model in music during childhood. Cincinnati was perfect for the German Americans, and young Doris spent her childhood in arts, dancing, and music. While the time of the Great Depression could be considered as difficult, and perhaps even the time of Doris's childhood, it was filled with hope and connectedness with the family. Dancing was innate in Doris, and from childhood she was able to dance. Especially she liked ballet and tap, and by the time she reached early adolescence, she started dancing on the local stage and considered becoming a professional dancer. Dancing was the first passion of Doris and her dream. Dancing was not just a hobby for her. She trained hard and even got into the extent of partnering with a friend with the aim of ruling the dancing floor. However, there was a sad incident that erased all that when Doris was only 15 years of age. Her right leg was seriously damaged in a vehicle accident, and thus she could not become a professional dancer. Regarding little Doris, it was a total failure because she was forced to forget any dream of dancing. But the months of rehabilitation were also tough, and they got a chance to introspect and discover themselves. Transition to singing, and her first big break in the music industry. Doris was once confined to her bed, and she sang along the radio. This helped to keep her occupied, and also to make her happy. Her mother said that her daughter should begin taking singing lessons as she knew the girl was tone deaf. With the help of Grace Rain, her vocal teacher, the talented girl was managed, and soon Doris turned into a real singer. She then turned to music and got what would become passion in future and what would define her life. By late 1937, Doris Horowitz was going to nightclubs and local radio programs where bandleaders listened to her passionate voice. The first major opportunity was when the renowned bandleader Barney Rapp provided her the opportunity to sing with his band. Doris Day was still a baby when Rapp, the family's manager, advised her parents to change her name to one that could easily sell. Performing with Rapp's band was advantageous, since it provided Doris the exposure to the live audiences and the experience. At once it was possible to note that she had a very individual timbre of voice, which was warm, clear, and passionate. She did not stay unknown. A few months later, she was on stage with some of the most popular musicians out there. For a dancer who lost her dream to a singer who would enchant millions, this was the start of Doris Day's rise to one of the most beloved celebrities in America. From aspiring star to Hollywood icon, Doris Day's stardom story could only be described as a meteoric rise in Hollywood. Having achieved great success in singing, with such songs as Sentimental Journey and My Dreams Are Getting Better All the Time, Doris gained the attention of filmmakers relatively early in her career. Due to her beauty, her jovial personality, and her rather girl-next-door appeal, she was an ideal candidate for a movie star. Someone at Warner Brothers took note of her, and by 1948 she was making her film debut in Romance on the High Seas. At first a very small part, Doris's talent eventually propelled her to starring roles, making for a very organic shift from singer to actress. In early films, Doris played various genres, including romantic comedy, musicals, and much more. The major stepping stone in her career was Calamity Jane, 1953, in which she portrayed a spirited and cheerful character which made her the darling of America. Her appeal was the mix of singing and personality, and she turned into the embodiment of the perfect American woman, wholesome, cheerful, and charming. Movies such as Pillow Talk, 1959, alongside Rock Hudson, made her a favorite star and one of the biggest box office draws at the time. But popularity had its own problems. The pressure of sustaining her squeaky clean image was immense, and Hollywood had a very clear stereotype and typecast her, and thus restricted her range of roles. In private life, Doris had many problems: the failed first marriage, the constant struggle to bring up a son Terry, as well as a rather intensive work experience. Due to high demands of the media and fast pace of the industry, she went through some time of depression, self-doubt, and exhaustion. However, it was not easy for Doris Day to go through all of them, and that is why she was always professional in any of the roles she was portraying, with a lot of effort and talent. Her perseverance and capacity to be successful in circumstance only added to her fame of being the bright star of Hollywood. Behind the scenes, personal struggles. Real life of Doris Day, however, was not as glamorous as the life of the characters she portrayed in her movies. She got married 4 times, and each marriage was a challenge in its own way. Her first marriage was with Al Jordan, a musician, and this marriage was short and full of problems in 1941. Said to be violent, Jordan made Doris leave him shortly after the birth of their son Terry in 1942. Her second marriage to musician George Weidler, which took place only 3 years later, also proved to be a failure and was dissolved by divorce. Her private life was a string of breakups and letdowns, even as her career was on the rise. Doris's third marriage with movie producer Martin Melcher in 1951 seemed perfect at first. Melcher managed her career, and when he took charge of her career, she became more famous. However, the marriage was not perfect at all. Melcher was authoritarian and unilaterally made many decisions and gave Doris tasks she did not like. The kind of love they shared was more of a business partnership than a romantic one. They remained married to each other through these problems until his death in 1968. Fourth marriage to restaurateur Barry Comden in 1976 also did not last long, and the couple was divorced in 1981. Doris, who wanted to have a steady and loving man, but mostly ended up being single, was changed by this series of unfortunate love stories. Her relationship with her son, Terry Melcher, and its impact on her life. The only stable figure in Doris's life and the only one who supported her in her stormy marriages was her son, Terry Melcher. Doris and Terry had a good relationship with each other, and he was always there for her, especially when she was in trouble. Terry went on to become a record producer of bands like the Byrds and the Beach Boys. Like his mother, he had some music ability. Terry's achievements left Doris rather satisfied. Apart from her career, she had purpose in their romance. However, the two were not without some hitches in their partnership. Due to the demands of Hollywood and her working schedule, Doris was most of the time out of her home. This made her feel so shameful and regretful of not being at home to take care of Terry during his childhood. These challenges did not push Terry out of the life of Doris. Rather, it made him to be more involved in her life. Financial troubles, including the betrayal by her third husband, Martin Melcher. Doris Day suffered one of her severest jolts when her third husband, Martin Melcher, passed on in 1968. As for Melcher, Doris immediately understood that he was a fraudster who swindled money from her. She was close to being financially ruined as Melcher and his business partner misused her money. Doris was shocked to discover that Melcher had left her with millions of dollars in debt and a lot of lawsuits after she had entrusted him with her money. She was shocked to learn that her 17-year husband was untruthful to her. When Melcher signed Doris Day Show without her consent, she had to struggle to pay the costs. This hurt her more. Nonetheless, the life story of Doris Day is filled with personal hardships, while she herself was a symbol of optimism and happiness. She was very good at compartmentalization of her life between the public and the private domain. She continued to work on the Doris Day Show and other projects to ensure that the finances were made stable. Doris was strong because she did not allow her challenges to conquer her, but instead she conquered them. Her love of animals helped her and inspired her to stand up for animals and gave her new purpose. Doris's ability to smile and remain optimistic helped her not to be aware of her problems. She wanted to avoid the suffering she was going through because she had to maintain her image to her fans. She gained more fans when she was able to stand firm during pressure. Doris Day was Hollywood's most beloved character, a woman of class and strength who brought joy to millions even while she suffered. Doris Day's love for animals was immense and affected her later years a lot. Animals, especially dogs, were always around her, and she took care of stray dogs, which became her companions, when she lost her third husband, Martin Melcher. Her passion for animals was not confined to the level of sheer pleasure derived from them, but was a source of direction for her behaviors and decisions. In 1978, Doris established the Doris Day Animal Foundation, DDAF, to promote and support the cause of animals through providing grants to programs for spay and neuter, rescues, and education about pet ownership. The foundation was instrumentalized almost immediately as a key player in the animal rights movement, and animal suffering and adoptions declined considerably. Doris was also a part of the foundation and would engage in visiting veterinary clinics, rescue organizations, and shelters. She was also fond of and took in many animals, those who were old or sickly. Among the stories, one is about a dog named Spooky that she even had to feed for some time and which she loved. She also actively engaged in animal rights campaigns and personally adopted some of the animals. To this date, even when she was a senior citizen, Doris continued to support her foundation and the mission of the Doris Day Animal Foundation. Doris Day's musical legacy. The musical legacy of Doris Day constitutes a major chapter in American cultural history. Beginning her career in the 1940s, she soon rose to be among the most popular vocalists of her day. Doris's songs connected with listeners by virtue of their clear, friendly tone, therefore expressing the essence of a time. Released in 1945 with Les Brown and his Band of Renown, her first big song became the hymn for troops returning home from World War II. Success for the song launched Doris into celebrity, and she followed with a run of successes including My Dreams Are Getting Better All the Time.